So thank you, everybody. As the introduction said, this session is going to be about introducing Azure to your environment. Simon did a lovely introduction of me there with some pictures, but my name is Sarah Lean and I'm a Senior Cloud Advocate at Microsoft. Now, I am a dyed-in-the-wool IT pro. I am a traditional server hugger, if you want to call me that, although for the last few years I have transitioned into being an engineer in the cloud, and I can do engineering in the cloud, on-prem, and that hybrid environment as well. So that's the kind of take that I approach a lot of projects with and have lots of customer conversations around. Now, when we think about what everyone is doing in the cloud, people are starting to move to the cloud, and the reasons they are starting to move to the cloud are a variety of reasons. Now, it doesn't matter what size of company you are or what industry you're in, you'll probably recognize some of the migration drivers here on the slide today. So I have customers who have been moving because their physical data center location can no longer house the requirements that they have, and they're looking to get bigger premises. We've also got people here in Scotland as well who have legacy data centers that were built, maybe in the 70s or 80s, and they are starting to not be very efficient. They're not very green in terms of the environment as well. So they're starting to look at greener alternatives for their data centers. And that's where the cloud is starting to help them. But what we're going to be doing today is actually talking about a fictional company that we all love. You're probably well aware of it if you've ever watched a Microsoft presentation, Tailwind Traders. Now, Tailwind Traders are a fictional company. They are a retail company, and they're looking to introduce Azure into their environment to try and help solve a number of problems that they have today in their environment. And they're not only looking to solve those problems that they have, they're actually looking to introduce new capabilities into their infrastructure as well. What they ideally want to do is actually move as far as they can into the cloud and make that the single source of truth where all their infrastructure lives, if necessary as well. So first problem that they actually have and they're trying to tackle is their website. Now, the marketing department have been doing a great job of generating leads for customers, and lots of customers are hitting this website and actually can't cope. The legacy hardware that is installed, it's a one box that they have for their web server, cannot cope with the demand that's being driven to the website, and it's causing a lot of issues both for marketing, sales, and the IT department because it's going offline quite a bit, and it's not doing the Tailwind Traders reputation any good either. So what they're actually going to look at is actually driving a new solution. Now, as part of their new solution, they're actually going to introduce a bit of technology called the Azure Traffic Manager. Now, the Azure Traffic Manager is a DNS-based load balancer, which might seem like an odd choice to replace their web server, but if you have a think about it, what they're actually going to be doing is introducing new capabilities to solve this legacy problem that they have. Now, with the Azure Traffic Manager, what it can do is help you load balance your traffic. So if you have heavy traffic from, say, one geography region, you can start to route that traffic to an endpoint that will provide the customers with a fast performance. And it can also cope with endpoints or web servers, depending on what you want to call them, regardless of where they are. They can live in Azure or they can be non-Azure servers as well. So this will suit Tailwind Traders quite well for their current hybrid plans and their future plans as well. Now, looking at what Traffic Manager is actually going to do for Tailwind Traders, they're going to have a small outage when they change their DNS. So they're going to reroute their tailwindtraders.com domain to actually point to this Traffic Manager. And at the back end, what that Traffic Manager will do is actually start to route traffic to their old or existing web server. And then they're going to start to build on new web servers, potentially either using virtual machines within Azure to replicate what they have, or using the Azure Web Apps as well, which is a newer technology for serving web designs. What this will allow them to do is actually look at trying to solve that problem that they have. They'll have one small outage when they redirect the DNS traffic from tailwindtraders.com to the Traffic Manager, and then they can actually look at the back end in their own time without potentially affecting the end users, because the load balancer Traffic Manager should be able to cope with any outages to any of those endpoints. And I think this looks at a number of scenarios that Tailwind traders are looking to solve. So they're looking to future-proof their website, but they're also looking to drive and use their existing hardware and also additional points within the cloud as well. So it's great for those hybrid scenarios where we're trying to maybe burst our bandwidth. So if we have lots of traffic during a sale, say Black Friday, where we have lots of sales traffic going to it, we can expand our different nodes, and we can look at actually decommissioning that legacy server as well on-prem when they get to the stage that they have enough of the newer cloud solutions within the traffic as well. So that's something that they are looking to do to solve their website problems. Now, another problem that Tailwind traders have, or they are envisioning having, is managing their server estate. So right now they have a lot of servers on-prem in their legacy data center, and at the moment they're not very efficient at managing those servers. They use a variety of different tools. Everybody has their own favorite tool that they use to manage those servers, and they're looking to try and solve a problem that they see potentially when they actually introduce servers within Azure, and maybe if they start to expand into other cloud providers as well. They want to have a consistent management system for managing their servers, the day-to-day tasks as well. And this is where they're actually going to introduce Windows Admin Center. Now, Windows Admin Center is the modern way to manage your servers. If you've ever managed servers, you probably use things like the remote desktop protocol built into Windows, so using that MSTSC command to pull up the remote desktop, or you might have used the MMC snap-ins to try and interact with various different things on a remote server. With Windows Admin Center, this is a browser-based tool. It's a completely free tool as well. So if you have already a Windows Server license, you get Windows Admin Center to try and use and manage your servers. Now, with this tool, you can start to look at those day-to-day tasks that you might have. So you might have to have a look at what's happening if you've got running out of disk space, or if you have any problems, if you want to look at your event logs, just managing those day-to-day tasks of your servers that you'll carry out. And we'll see that later on as well. But what Windows Admin Center also allows Tailwind traders to be able to do is look at expanding into other services within Azure as well. So Windows Admin Center doesn't just look after those capabilities that you currently have with your Windows Server. You can start to actually manage different components from Azure as well from within Windows Admin Center. So, for example, if you want to use Azure Backup to back up your servers that live on-prem or even in the cloud as well, you can actually start to use one of the extensions within Windows Admin Center to manage that Azure backup as well. So you don't have to leave the Windows Admin Center portal to go off and do tasks. You can still use them within the Windows Admin Center. So it's that single pane of glass that we all hate the phrase about, but we all love to have, because I know I get confused when I have multiple windows open. God knows how many times I have actually closed the wrong window or potentially carried out the wrong step on a different window. So having that single pane of glass that Windows Admin Center allows you to do and have when you're managing your servers is hopefully going to help Tailwind traders when they are managing their server estate from a day-to-day basis, and also look at extending the possibilities into Azure as well. Now, Windows Admin Center isn't just all about the operating system of your Windows server. There is actually capabilities thanks to other Windows partners such as Dell or HPE or Fujitsu or Lenovo, and actually looking at the hardware. So for those hardware servers that you have, those physical servers that you're still managing in your legacy data centers, you'll have some control over them as well. So you don't have to go down to the data center, log on to the physical server and have a look at some of the hardware components. You can do some of that monitoring and management from within Windows Admin Center as well. Now, Windows Admin Center is also kind of open source, so you can build your own extensions. So if there's something that you can't currently do with Windows Admin Center and you have some talented developers or even IT pros in your team, you can build your own extensions and start to use the capabilities and extend the capabilities of Windows Admin Center as well. Now, I'm sure you're all dying to have a bit of a look at some of this in demo. So if we have a look at the Windows Admin Center console, this is me managing a few servers that I have, a couple on-prem, so they're located here in my office, and I'm also managing a Windows an Azure virtual machine as well. We can see here that we can connect into these servers. So if we connect into one of these servers, it will load up and show us a bunch of information about that server. So we'll get to see basic information like you would expect, the operating system, how much free disk space there is. We get to see some of the CPU performances as well, some of that real-time information that might need if potentially we're trying to troubleshoot something or just do our daily checks for our servers. Now down the left-hand side is where the power is in terms of interacting with that server. You can see you've got lots of options here, and here I am in the event log without actually connecting to that server itself. I haven't opened up a remote connection. I'm doing it all within Windows Admin Center, and you can see I still have the power and the flexibility to find what I need. Now, it's just not all about reading things that are happening within the server. You can interact with it as well and change settings. Here I am in the firewall, probably a potentially dangerous area to be changing things in, but I can change things. I can disable rules, I can enable rules, I can add in rules if I want. If I search for some of the file and printer sharing rules, I can start to amend the ones that I need to. So I want to amend actually the ICMP protocols here. So I find them in my list and I click on enable, and it's as simple as that. Obviously, I make sure that I have the right change controls within my environment to be able to change this within my firewall. But you can see I can interact with that server quite easily. I don't have to go and look at the server itself. I don't have to open up a different management portal. But you can see I have lots of different options here down the left-hand side to be able to interact with the server. Again, I'm picking something a bit more dangerous this time. The registry, again, something you may not want to be editing all the time, but you have that possibility from within Windows Admin Center. But like I said, you also have the capabilities of looking at the Azure services as well that we saw earlier on within my slides. So hopefully that gives you a little insight as to what Windows Admin Center can do and how Tailwind traders are actually going to use it within their environment. Now, another area that Tailwind traders are a bit concerned about is actually keeping consistency within their environment. They're a bit worried that having these servers in multiple locations and having different mechanisms of managing and being able to control these servers, they are worried that things will get out of alignment with their processes. So they're wondering how they can actually look at keeping that consistency and maintaining the compliance that they need to for their auditors and their basic internal standards as well. Now, bearing in mind that currently they're in a hybrid state with some infrastructure on-prem and some in the cloud, and they're wanting to actually use Azure as that single source of truth, they're starting to look at what Azure can do to help make their compliance and consistency happen within their environment. And that's where they're actually going to look and introduce Azure Arc. Now, with Azure Arc, you can extend Azure services down onto servers that are legacy, that are in your on-prem data center, that are in other cloud provider data centers, and give you a lot of functionality that you want to use or are potentially going to use within Azure. Now with Azure Arc, you can use the agent to install onto servers that are Windows servers, that are Ubuntu servers, that live inside your own data center, that maybe live in AWS or other cloud providers, and it will give you the ability to have access to these other services. And this is where Tailwind traders see the possibility and see the potential for having Azure Arc enabled servers. They can use things like Azure Policy to actually start to control what's happening within their environment, make sure they are introducing that consistency, even if it's just something as simple as making sure the server names are compliant or the ports that are open on the firewalls and things like that are all consistent across all of the servers, regardless of where the server lives. Also things like change tracking and inventory tracking as well, that can help them with their management of what's happening, maybe track licenses across their servers. Update management is a great tool for patching your servers, and we'll see more about that later on in the presentation. But you can turn on these additional services that are living within Azure and utilize them on your on-prem servers. And you don't have to use them all at once. So if you're like Tailwind traders and you're just stepping into your cloud journey, you can start to enable the ones that you want, and then later on enable more ones as you get more mature or you find more uses for the technology within your environment. Now, Azure Arc extends across a bunch of services. So you have things like just your server management, you have Kubernetes, but we also have the Azure Arc enabled SQL servers, and we can benefit by having the Azure Arc and agent installed on your SQL servers to look at things like governance, again, security on your SQL server, and just managing everything around what happens and what goes within your SQL servers. I want to show you a quick demo of what Azure Arc looks like in the portal when you actually start to enable it. So here we are in the Azure Arc blade within Microsoft Azure portal, and you can see I have two servers here. I have one that's the server and I have one that's the SQL server. It's both the same one. With this Azure Arc server agent, we can get some information around the server. We can see what extensions have been extended onto this server and enable some of the features within Azure. We can see a bunch of information as well around what's happening with that server. And we have control over using the change tracking. We have logs, we have insights. You can see there's a lot of possibilities that can be extended. If we look at what happens when you install it on a SQL server, we can see a bit more about what's happening inside that SQL server version. We can see the version of SQL, we can see the collation of that SQL server, and we can start to, again, like I said, monitor what's happening with your SQL server, have a look at securities, have a look at vulnerabilities, maybe if there's any SQL best practices that you could enable to have a look at in terms of what's happening within your SQL server database. So if you don't have a dedicated database administrator, you can use some of the best practices that has the Microsoft app built in and actually use that to enable services within your SQL server as well. So you can see the possibilities of Azure Arc are quite extended as well. Now, one of the other challenges that Tailwind traders have, and I think a lot of organizations have, I know I even have it here in my home office with the multiple devices that I have in the home lab that I have, is keeping your servers up to date, making sure that your operating systems have the latest and greatest patches on them. Now, this isn't just because you want to keep up to date. It's actually for a very good reason, because if you don't close off potentially any security vectors within your servers, attackers can get into your system, and nobody wants any of that. At the moment, Tailwind traders use WSUS, so the Windows update service that they have been using for several years, but that doesn't allow them really any capabilities for managing servers out with of their on-prem environment. And they're starting to look at how they can think about supporting some of their Linux servers that they have as well. And this is where they're going to use Azure Update Management for their environment. With Azure Update Management, which is a free tool within Azure, so you can use it free of charge, and I do here at my home lab because it's free, and us Scottish people always like a bargain. But what Azure Update Management allows you to do is actually patch your Windows and Linux servers regardless of where they live. They can live in Azure, they can live on-prem, they can live in other cloud providers. It will allow you to schedule your processes, schedule those updates that happen. So if you want your updates to happen at 3 a.m. on a Sunday morning when everybody's sleeping and they're not going to notice an outage, should the server needs to be rebooted for the patching to happen, then you can do all of that. What it will give Tailwind traders is that single pane of glass for managing all of their servers, managing their Windows estate, managing their Linux estate, and actually extending across all of their infrastructure, whether that be on-prem or in the cloud. And again, this is helping them work towards that single source of truth, which is what Azure is going to be for them. Now, the next area that Tailwind traders are concerned about, and again, lots of organisations are concerned about, is security. I don't think there's a week goes by where we don't hear about a security breach somewhere across the board. If an attacker gets access to someone's credentials, potentially someone is reusing passwords within your environment, and they gain access to your environment, they can start to move laterally through your environment. And before you know it, you can have data loss, you could have resource abuse. We've had customers actually have large virtual machines spun up for Bitcoining and the like. And that's obviously quite a serious thing as well, because it's not only expensive, it does a lot of reputational damage if hackers get into your system. So Tailwind traders want to avoid that. And this is where they're going to start to look at some of the capabilities of Azure Security Center. Azure Security Center isn't just for your Azure virtual machines or even your Azure resources. It can be extended to servers, to cloud native workloads, your databases, raw storage, wherever that may be as well. And that's something that they want to have a look at. Now, Tailwind traders are not security experts at the moment. And what they're excited to use actually, and what I love, one of my features that I love about the Azure Security Center is the Secure Score. This is a quick glance of what's happening within your environment. And you can quickly see if your environment's secure or not secure based on that score that's been given within Azure Security Center. And again, if you don't have any security experts or you're just new to the environment and you're trying to learn, it gives you that quick glance about things and best practices you can apply within your environment and be at a more secure posture across the board. So again, that's why I love it, because I can learn quite quickly if my environment is secure or not secure. Having a look at my Azure security environment, we can see I've got 2 subscriptions within my environment. And if we go into the secure score area, we can have a look at how secure they are or how secure they're not. Thankfully, my subscriptions are at 100% secure and 97%, so they're at a very good security posture level. But if I go in, I can see which actions I should apply to my environment. You know, I could look at enabling MFA if I didn't already have it, potentially to increase my secure score as well. But within Azure Security Center, you've got a bunch of features beyond the secure score one. We can have a look at the inventory and see what our servers are doing, what recommendations potentially per that server that I need to apply across the board. You can see here, there's lots of recommendations for this server that I can apply and have a look at improving my security posture across the board for that as well. We can also look at things like regulatory compliance. So again, if you're having to implement something like PCI DSS or an ISO, there are some recommendations within Azure Security Center that can help guide you on that journey. It can also be a great tool for showing an auditor who is coming into your environment if you have actually applied these things to your environment as well. So there's a lot of features within Azure Security Center that can help you either as a security professional or someone that's just learning about securing their resources for their organization as well. Now, this has been a whirlwind tour of some of the services that you can introduce to Azure and why you would do them. We had a look at how Azure Traffic Manager is going to help Tailwind traders solve some of their website traffic issues and make them future-proof as well. We also looked at Windows Admin Center to help make their server administrating more simplified and modern. We also looked at Azure Arc and how we were going to use it to enable some of the Azure services that Tailwind traders want to use to their non-Azure services. We also looked at Azure Update Management, which is going to help keep their servers up to date and patched and secure. And lastly, we looked at Azure Security Center to show them how they can actually make their security posture across their entire environment very secure and very well regarded within the industry. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join me today. If you're looking for more resources, and I will put a copy of the slides here, if you go to aka.ms/cloudsummit-azure, you can find out more information. And please do connect with me. I love meeting new people, and I'm definitely missing in-conference experiences of meeting everybody. But thank you so much. If there's any questions, I will try and tackle them now. But thank you so much for your time today.